mentality that it is kind of pervasive throughout society is instantly being offended and attacked. If you are constantly being victimized in your head, you will never grow.
It's a whole lot of like shaking babies and kissing hands, all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
But what you're talking about is the bigotry of lowered expectations. You hire people, and then when you don't hold them to the same standards as everyone else, garbage in, garbage out.
So it was put up or shut up time. And that was when I realized, I should write this. I should start writing, even if it's bad. But at the very least, I can just stop talking about it.
Say festively?
Festively.
Oh, that's totally different. All right, Shae, you got this. Anytime now. Shae, we're 6 seconds in and you're laughing.
Oh my God, no.
Now it's on you. Now it's on you.
So, The Love of Fisting, episode 13.
Welcome everyone to episode 13 of Writing Prose. I am Shae the Red
Lucky
with my
number
amazing
13.
panel of wonderful degenerates. First up, we got Mr. Eric Canete. How are you, sir?
Hello. Thank you for having me again.
Yes.
Often.
I like how you say thank you, like you're not roped into being part of this. Like it's in your contract.
You are one of the hosts of the show, sir.
It was less that, more about, did I deliver that like a freaking robot? Like, hello. Thank you.
Insert emotions here.
Thank you for having me. We also have Mr. MK Gibson. How you doing, Gibby?
I'm alive and I'm here. Let's do this.
Screw Corona.
We're talking about the beer, YouTube censor.
It's the beer.
It's beer. It's totally
Yes.
Please don't put the prompt at the bottom of this video.
Yeah.
and of course, Sai. How are you?
Speaking of robots, I'm doing awesome.
It's the way that Shae could almost not get your name out of her throat.
Yeah, I know. She had to stop and really
That person.
Yeah.
Like, what was that dumb bitch's name again?
That one up there. Terrible.
Love you,
Hello,
babe.
everyone.
Love you too. Okay, so we had kind of like a two-part topic for this show. We were talking about Sai and I. Sounds like I say cyanide every time I say that.
Yes.
Sai and
we are
I were
death
talking
poison.
Horror.
horror. All the things that we say incorrectly. I can't wait.
We're
we
2
were
minutes
talking
in.
about we were talking about love versus profit. So writing because you love what you're writing and you want to get it out and hope that people will like it versus writing to actually make like a living wage, because those are not the same thing.
1 second. Let me expand this a little more. Maybe not even writing for other people to ever see. Maybe you're creative writing in a journal or something
I was
like
gonna
that.
say.
So the difference between that writing and the I want to sell 1 billion books and I have to appeal to the people.
Masses, yeah.
To the people.
So we'll start there and see if we have time to get into the other topic after. Eric, you seem like you're about to crack, so how about you go first?
No, I was just laughing at that little to the people thing. I don't know why that landed so perfectly.
Probably because I played that fucking clip before we started.
I love that clip.
You motherfucker.
Yeah.
Also, the Bane and the Harley Quinn animated is my favorite Bane. Oh my God.
I've never seen it. Good?
Oh my God, fantastic.
Okay.
We're not talking about your topic, you guys. We should be talking about everything else.
When do we
Let me
ever?
think.
It's fine.
Yes.
Writing for I was going to decouple the idea of writing because you want people to love it, which Sai has already hit upon perfectly. So that's my contribution this week. Good night, everyone.
Try again, sir. How do you write?
I write because I write primarily, these days, I write primarily to shut myself up. Only because I do a lot of critiquing of other people's work. I do a lot of critiquing of, a lot of armchair quarterbacking of other sort of like movies, animated TV shows. And it gets really old, especially if to somebody like me where it's actionable, right? Where I can do something about it. I hate that. I mean, there's plenty of times when I hear people talking and being really overly critical about something, and I understand that's the freedom prerogative that they have. But if you can do something better, I often say go for it, right? Or else you're just talking to talk. So I'm a huge proponent of that. And then I'd realize, based on a couple of playbacks of my friend's stream, that I'm like, boy, I do a lot of shit talking on the side. And that's really off-putting to me. Really, really super off-putting. So it was put up or shut up time. And that was when I realized, I should write this. I should start writing, even if it's bad, even if it's not sort of the best offering that I can have, but at the very least, I can just stop talking about it.
That's fair.
You guys ever experience anything like that? Well, no, we all write from different places, right?
Well, but I mean, I think that's a common theme. Like, I think that especially if you're a creative personality, if you have that kind of creative mindset, then you look at things that other people do with a more critical eye. And so,
yeah,
I used to love videography. I really, really wanted to. When I tried to join the military, I wanted to go into videography. I wanted to go to Denfos, and I wanted to help those absolutely horrendous shows that they play on the Air Force television channel thing. That was just like, oh, this is painful. Like, this is the most ham-fisted, just ridiculous kind of content, and you're trying to tell people about like important resources that they could use or benefits that they have, but they do it in such a way that everyone groans, and it actually turns people away from ever using them. And I always wanted to like do music videos or work on movies or, work on things where it's like PSAs that actually reach people. And I would sit and watch all of these things and I just pick them apart. And it's like, this clearly happened because a deadline came up, or somebody's life got busy or something, or they just put someone in this job who is not creative at all. And they were like, tell people that they can go to this resource. And so they literally put up a screen that says, hey, did you know this is a resource? And then the website. And it's like, the hell is this? Like, that's not helpful at all. This is just stupid. I do think that the problem comes in when everyone just criticizes endlessly without ever either finding redeeming qualities or things that they like in the same projects that were done well, or actually creating something better. Because it's easy to sit back and be like, that was absolute horseshit, and then never create anything where you have to be held to any kind of scrutiny as well. Yeah. So, I do that a lot, but I haven't put my stuff out a lot for people to criticize, and I try to not criticize like more indie creators. I try to not criticize them as harshly because most of them, this is their first time out. They are learning. Sure. But a lot of
I wish it came from a more creative place, though. I wish it came from a more like, I am really inspired to take this thing and put it to paper and build a story, build a world, and blah blah blah. But sometimes I feel like I'm doing it out of spite. like I'm doing this to make a stupid point that this formula is so implementable, so usable, and it's so easy to understand if you just kind of sit back. And I think this is my biggest criticism of mainstream comics. I grew up an X-Men kid. And so when I read an X-Men book, and especially because it has years of Chris Claremont effectively laying down the formula of how to write that book well, you can break down 1, 2, 3s of how he does characterization, how he does plot, how he builds towards the annual event. It's so easy to wrap your mind around it. I don't understand why it's not part of their playbook until I realize, oh wait, there's you actually have to have like grown-ups in the room to be able to do that, But to me, once I take that and go like, oh, it's just the playbook, I go like, oh, I wish it came from a more creative place as opposed to this won't make much sense, but from a playbook spiteful place, if that makes any sense. Yeah. Right? Like I really wanted to write Jurassic Park, and boy, there it is, as opposed to dummies, you can't write X-Men, so I want to write my own version kind of thing.
Well, it's kind of funny because mentioning being creative and seeing other people do it wrong, and that spurring, not spurning, you on to do it. The same thing happened with Shae and I when it came to hearing the abominable pitches that people had for their books. And it just got to the point where I'm like, I cannot sit through another one of these. These people are struggling. And so that's why we started offering it as a service for writing their pitches. And it just ballooned from there I will write your book for you.
I was going to ask, do you think it doesn't necessarily matter where the quote unquote creativity comes from? Who cares what was the initial sort of drop of inspiration, just as long as it got you into that creative space?
Creativity is creativity to me. I mean, if you unlock an idea for a creative story because somebody has absolutely pissed you off. So like a lot of the stuff that I've been doing recently in my life, like cosplays, where I'm putting myself out there more and I'm doing more elaborate cosplays, or writing or video editing, comes from having somebody who is really close to me who made me feel like I was stupid for wanting to do any of this and that I was never going to make it and I couldn't do it. And so now it's like one of those, well, I start and I've done some things and I get a positive reaction, and now I'm going to keep going because not only is it exciting for me to be able to do something that I wanted to do that I always kind of told myself I couldn't, but every time I have a little bit more success at it, it's like a little extra fuck you.
A little.
So people who've always been like,
it's the sprinkle on top of the fuck you.
Putting yourself out there.
Yeah, I get it.
Or all those times when Shae, I'm going to talk about something personal about you, so don't worry, I won't be exposing anything about myself. But all those times growing up when you're like, I'm really tall for a girl and all this kind of stuff. Now, let's talk about your cosplay. Now you're doing something that's totally girly. You know what I mean? You have to sell your sexiness and your femininity for it, and so it's like that's the extra fuck you on the, well, you're too tall to be feminine or whatever.
Yeah.
That's weird. Too
Eric,
tall to be feminine?
Look, okay, first off, legitimately, without exaggeration, I get sirred at least twice a month.
You get sirred?
Yes.
Wait. Yes, sir. Sir, that's the wrong...
How are you doing today, sir? Can I help you,
No.
sir? Yeah, at least
because you're so tall?
Twice a month. Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Because people who are working behind counters, who are ringing people up, who are working registers, don't...
No.
I don't know if you know this. They don't actually look at you.
No.
They don't look at you until towards
Not
the
head
end
on.
of the transaction. They glance up and they make a judgment call based on what part of the body they're seeing when they lightly glance up. So when they glance up and
that
they
makes
see
sense for
waist, they assume, oh my gosh,
Sir.
this has got to be
Dude's
a
got
dude.
boobs.
No, they see out of the
I
corner
had
of their
someone look
eye
me
someone
in the
who's
face.
over 6 feet tall, and they make that assumption based on what's in their side sight. Go
Gib,
ahead.
you
That totally
laugh.
tracks because I get offered so many Happy Meals. I'm like a little kid. There's a person behind the counter that runs behind the counter, runs in front of the counter with like a stool right away.
want-
Can you see me from where you are? That low?
You want apple
Where's your
slices
mom?
or fries?
Are you lost?
Where is your mother?
Oh, you
Right.
you poor thing. Do you know you're bald?
Do you know your phone number? We can call home for you.
Yeah.
Shut up, I say.
I've literally had girls on full display in high heels in a dress, blah blah blah, and I had somebody be like, "I'll be with you in a moment, sir," and I was like,
No. Well,
Solid.
okay. First of all, let's contextualize. It's somebody working fast food. You can't take it with.
"No, it was actually
Well, you can't
somebody
take that.
at a grocery store, standing at a
Oh,
register."
That's
and
poor.
It was not busy.
Okay. That might just be a But listen, your point well taken, which is you
Look.
get sirred.
They hire special needs people to work at registers.
Wow, sigh.
All I'm saying is a special needs person.
You need to stop talking.
So
We're gonna-
love
this
versus
is
profit
all
versus
getting
promoting
hot.
back
ideas.
into topic
Saying it.
really quick. Where do we land on this?
Wow.
Writing stuff out of-
Writing. Yeah.
Yeah, I can. Let me
Writing.
get on the
Yeah.
whorishness side of it. I love getting
Horror.
paid to do something. No horror, not like
Not
horror, as in no,
Horse.
horse.
Prostitution.
Yes, there it is. Let me get on the
the oldest
prostitution
profession.
side of it. Somebody who uses good words. Let me get on the prostitution side of writing. I really love making money, and if I can get paid to do this thing that I'm doing poorly now, oh man, this is gonna be so cool. I'm in love with that potential idea. So writing for, I don't know why we've demonized getting paid to do a craft that
Right.
not a ton of people know how to do well, much less like efficiently and like brilliantly, right?
I mean, that's the thing. If you can do, that's why the put up or shut up mentality happened. Because if you can do it better than the people who are already doing it, then why aren't you?
Yeah.
Like if it's something that you like, you're passionate about, and you can do it better than, Grisham, then do it. He sells how many like millions of copies of books
Sure.
every single
sure.
time. Like if you can do it better, then do it better. But it's because people like to criticize because that's easy.
Yes.
But actually writing something that and not just writing it, because writing it is one thing. That's one part of your brain, right? Now, this is where I want to hear Gibb's thoughts, because Gibb writes amazing stories. Marketing those stories to hit a big enough audience for you to get to Grisham levels, that is where 90% of that work comes in. So when you're a writer, you either hire someone to do that for you and you only focus on the writing, or in like Gibb's situation, you have to do both, and that means that you're spending 90% of your time trying to figure out how to market yourself and your books better to find that audience.
Gabe,
And
what is
that's
that?
what's
What is
so
that
hard.
for you? I
Oh
mean,
my
I have
God.
the added benefit of like pictures,
Being
right?
famous?
Which is sort of
okay,
this.
Yeah.
No, get out of here. Like the pictures is an amazing sort of like gateway into like, oh, I like that picture. I might have an That's my
Yeah.
unofficial handshake, right? How do
Right.
you do it from your end when it's just
Well, we cheat. First, step one is have a good cover. No matter what they say, a good cover. Like
You always judge a book by its cover.
you always judge a book by
You
its
do.
cover.
That's why they're
and
there.
My best-selling book was actually one of my worst covers, so that's the exception that proves the rule, because like it was a fun book that sold the most for me in spite of the cover, because it was just something quirky at the time. But you have to. Half the time it's who you know. Like, you have to beg, borrow, and steal. You have to get onto podcasts. You have to tweet. You have to get into Facebook groups. You have to get into Reddit groups. You have to get into everything.
Exhausting.
You can pay money to, like, some publishers who, like, will take, not publishers, but promotionalists, publicity. Thank you. I'm just having a heart of a day.
It's okay.
You can pay those people to
Shay's
do that shit
spinning
for you.
around in her brain right now because we do marketing and promotion. So she's like,
Right.
That's why Gib and I have had so many conversations about. So
Yes.
we're gonna do some limited edition releases of your books, and we're gonna
Something.
now
I
that
mean,
he's
it's
got the rights back,
Right.
he can't.
Right. It's a whole lot of like shaking babies and kissing hands, all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it was on purpose. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? It's beg, borrow, and steal. It's meat. It's glad hand. It's constant. It's. Remember we talked? Was it last episode or episode before that when we were talking about the how to be a pitchman, or how to talk to somebody, like, hey, get your pitch down, whether you're at a convention or something like that. It's the same thing, but you're always on. I have friends who are they never. I mean, how many tweets a day? How many posts a day? And sometimes you can do that even with mediocre work. So,
Yeah.
oh,
Well,
Jesus.
That's something.
Sorry, I
that-
just read Cy's that private message. Just like, damn.
Fucking private chat. Sai, if you're gonna put it in the chat, say it out loud.
you were talking about pitchmen, and my brain went somewhere.
We were talking
completely
about
different.
pitching and catching. I must have been asleep.
Yes.
There
So,
you go. Thank you, Gib.
They don't. Yeah.
I was setting it up.
What?
Oh, it derailed so quickly.
What I was gonna say, and that's something that like marketing is an entirely different beast, and so many people don't understand this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how many people I've seen who are like, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, and they just keep pushing it, and it's like you don't understand what you're actually doing. Like,
Yeah.
you can't do that on social media and have anybody take you seriously. It is one of the least effective marketing tools that you can do, because on social media you are expected to be social. That is the point of social media. If you refuse to be social and all you do is spam like you are a robot about your book, then everybody either assumes that you are a robot,
Damn it,
and they ignore it, or they assume that you lack a personality or any social cues whatsoever, and they ignore you that way. There's so many people that I've tried to help that have either I've either had to mute or who have ended up blocking me from telling them the harsh truth of, if all you ever do is spam your link and never actually, like, we're talking people who go into other threads entirely unrelated to anything. Like, I'm having a really hard day today. I've been feeling really sad. I could use, some like funny pics or show me your art to try and help pull me out of this depression. And they go, what would really help is if you bought my book. Like, okay.
I love that so much. I love that so. Is that ineffective?
Eric, no.
Damn
it. Bad Eric. This is not what you do.
Don't scold Eric. He hasn't gotten his Happy Meal yet.
He'll get a Happy Meal when he doesn't.
When he does good. Do
thread.
better, Eric.
Be better.
You get the 6-piece chicken nuggies.
Ooh.
You don't get the 10 anymore.
God damn it! Now I want chicken nuggets. Thanks, Gib.
Oh God, I kill for some nuggets right now.
I know, right?
That would be so good.
The nug rule's in effect. If you're getting, I have to get. I mean, that's you got to get it for
We're all
everybody.
getting nuggets now. Everyone.
Call your wife. Tell her on the way back.
This is so optimal.
Ooh, DoorDash. Where's my phone?
Oh my gosh, Sai. But yeah, like marketing is. People don't realize how much goes into marketing and how long it takes, because it's not just every day I'm putting out a tweet that has the link to my book in it. It's I'm doing something that's engaging. I'm networking, which is the huge one. Networking is probably bigger than anything that you're going to do from your personal account on social media. Networking is what's going to help you get a break, if ever. Because if you know somebody who knows somebody who's looking for something specific that your book happens to fit in, that's how your name travels down the pipeline. So as much as it's exhausting going to the conventions and actually talking to other people who are there for similar reasons, going to panels or paneling yourself.
Oh my God, going to a
talks
convention.
And stuff, all of
This
those
whole
things.
con I'm going to next month down in North Carolina, is only because like I have a fan that I've like a fan of mine is a fan of some other books, but reached out to me, and I engage all my fans. Like if they reach out on Facebook or private messenger or whatever, if you take the time to email me, I'll message you back. I'm a polite person, so
Everyone's
I always engage.
Gib right now.
Yes.
I'll email you. That's fine.
Email in the description.
Yeah.
GibbTheWriter@gmail.com. It's easy
There you
peasy.
go.
Thank you. Now I can put it in the description. I didn't have it before.
We didn't have it previously.
And but no, like they reached out to me, and I messaged back, and they like got me involved, and like I did their podcast, and they said, hey, why don't you come on down to our con? We'll give you a table when you meet, because I just was nice on the podcast, got along with them, bullshitted, and like these are writers that I've been reading for years, so it was dope to like try not to fanboy out a little bit, because they came before me, so like, hey, I get to be on the same kind of stage with them for a little bit, and sell some of my books and everything like that.
Right.
But that just comes from like engagement, being kind, networking, and it's don't be a dick. That's really the top rules. Like every time you're a dick, it just shuts doors on you, kind of thing. So
is that the secret?
Shut
Damn it,
doors
we
on
would have
the
been at.
dick.
Oh God.
Yeah. Why do you think when you were gone it was easier to get monetized?
Oh. That's why you're at like 4,000 followers and I'm
Yeah.
at like
Come
900, 924.
Dude, I haven't even broken 400. No one follows me on Twitter. It's where.
Oh, everyone go follow Gib right now.
That'd be dope if you did.
All
Just,
6 of you who watch this.
Exactly. I'm even. It's kind of like every time I get a new Russian prostitute on Instagram follower, I'm like, yay!
Folks, it's
Buy my
Gibby,
book.
Gibby the door dick on Twitter.
Nope, but
That
close
is
enough.
not it. Don't follow that account. I don't know what that'll get.
Shit, I'm gonna
If
follow that account.
exists, I'm following that fucking account.
Dude, the door dick. I'm totally following the door dick.
Now I gotta Google it.
We're all checking.
But back to your here's the thing, like writing
At
for
door
love
dick,
versus
it's
writing
right
for
here.
profit. Nice.
Oh God. And there's an underscore door dick too. It's like a DoorDash knockoff.
Don't.
Well, I like to
Don't
think
follow.
like who got it first, and then was like, now I gotta put an underscore. Damn it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, door dick got it in November 2012. So yeah.
Door dick got in
Tyson's
there
going to
early.
be doing well for himself. Okay, so here's the thing.
He's got 4 followers.
He had more, I suspect.
He's gonna get more, I suspect. Gib.
What was the topic
Put
again?
up. I don't remember. Something
Happy
about writing
Meals.
for love versus writing for profit,
Yeah.
and honing
Yeah.
ideas, and it's like a hodgepodge kind of thing. It's just us bullshit at this point. No, I mean, like Eric, like you put together a lot of stuff. I assume Arc Athena like that is out of like your passion versus you've been hired to do it kind of thing. Is that am I right in that?
That's accurate. I mean, passion is a really generous word. It's out of spite, but I get what you're saying.
Spiteful passion.
Well, actually, you know what? It's fair. It's an evolution. It started as spite, then eventually turned into passion
Okay.
because it's the only way you can make it sustainable.
Well,
Right.
that's interesting to me. So I love the look of your book. As we've mentioned in previous episodes, we haven't actually read it yet, but I have seen the art. It looks amazing. What
Give us free
Birth.
copies.
what birthed the spite? You don't have to
The
name
spite.
names, but
Yeah.
generally the situation. What
Yeah.
what was the
I had
root?
time to think about this because again, I refer to semi-seriously, but actually semi-jokingly, but actually partly seriously, in that I hadn't been anything comic book related in a while. I stepped away from comics because of just work or just interest, and when I came back, it was right around the time that there was this massive divide between groups of people who wanted to see more of the stuff that I grew up on, and where currently comics were trending. And I'm not in a position to say one thing is better than the other, but I am in a position to say here's what I prefer. And if you start focusing on why things aren't landing as well with its core audience, and they tell you, hey, we want not necessarily more of the same, but have an understanding of where that lineage and that history comes from. And the people responsible, the leadership responsible, say, well, we're not going to do that. We're going to go do this something else, and it's clearly not working, right? The 2-year, 3-year experiment is not yielding the kind of results that they're going for, not just in your readership, but most certainly because there's a legacy involved there.
Yeah. In fact,
That's
far the
what
opposite.
that's what really started to make me mad, because if you're not only do I come from a place of like I really love the X-Men were the thing that got me into comics, made me want to draw, and this was pre Jim Lee, this was pre like anything, like this is the stuff that made me go, actually comics is a viable place for me to go into as a career. I love drawing. I love these aspirational semi-broken people, but it made them that much more relatable to me. And to have them be who they are now, I thought like there's something missing here. And at first I pointed my dissatisfaction and ire towards the creative teams, right? Which is really misappropriated. I think that's the wrong place to point at. I often point at I'm pointing at the leadership and editorial staff to go like, you understand what you have here. You understand the history and the lineage and the legacy of this, but you're letting this other thing happen. And I understand if it came from a place of let's try it because we're looking for a potential growth in audience, a potential growth in like the subject matter, I'm on board. Go find it. But you should have enough data now to tell you this isn't working, right? And talented, well-crafted people know how to walk something back and do it even better. But the fact that you haven't found, that these people have not found their way back to that main sort of like, this is what got us here. We know how to improve on this without completely abandoning it. That's what really pissed me off. And it pissed me off for a while. And eventually I said, I'm going to go do something about it. But that only lasts a month and a half, 3 months into the process. I'm now a year and a half into Arc Athena, and I realized, I can't sustain on just being angry. I actually had to be honed in and zoned in on like, why do I love this so much? And I'd come to find it.
That's really interesting to me. And you're right. I think if people in the big comic book companies, I'm not just going to say the big two because it's not just them, but if
Sure.
they actually approached it from an earnest place of, society is changing to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd like to address that in an honest and open way, and maybe shape characters a little bit more in a contemporary way. That would be one thing. But the fact that when they saw the numbers changing for the worse, they didn't step back and say, okay, this isn't working. The fact that they just kept going, and in these back rooms and everything have admitted it is the numbers don't matter. It is absolutely positively about the message. It's about the ideology, and it's about cramming that down people's throats, whether or not it bankrupts the company or not. So I think in that regard, you've seen a lot of pushback and a lot of refusal to purchase that kind of thing. And a lot of people such as yourself who grew up loving comics, who grew up creating, just amazing works, turned around and said, I've got to throw my hat in and do what I can to create the kind of thing that I would have liked to see today.
I think going back to, I think you're right. And then going just to the actual craft of writing, I feel like there's a handful of things there that either didn't happen right up front or couldn't be mentored into the right place. Comics and I don't know if you guys have kind of identified what works for comics. It has worked historically, and it should. The process is it's not necessarily even a playbook, but there's a way you write for movies and there's a way that you write for comics, and neither of those things are broken. It's the nuance that you add to it. But you also have to teach it if somebody clearly does not have an understanding for it. Right. And that's what was missing for me. I'm like, this is so obvious to me. How do you write this? How you write a miniseries, how you write an ongoing, but they seem to miss it. This is so obvious to how you write characters for comics and have them do like the appropriate amount of exposition to understand because they don't do thought bubbles anymore. Right? So like you can write around that and have like an appropriate amount of exposition so you can understand their motivation. But all of that seems to be missing. Well, so for me to go back to your question, Shae, to be like, or go back to subject matter of like, I think a part of the writing, especially for bigger companies, you actually have to love the thing that you're writing about. You have to have a reverence for the thing that you're writing about, because rare, especially in comics, is the pay going to come into place, right? So that's the whorishness. Well,
I was going to say one of the things that I think is pervasive all across the entertainment industry right now is a bunch of, and I'm going to use a term and it doesn't necessarily mean exactly what it means, but like the whole idea of diversity hiring, where people were so concerned about not having enough of a diverse voice in the room that can make decisions, that people who were put into those positions were people who maybe didn't have the same kind of education or qualifications as other people who'd been there previously. Now, regardless of why that is, if that's the case, you have to provide that in training. You have to provide that in education to let people know this is how a comic book differs from a novel, differs from a movie. This is where voice and stuff has to change, because I've been reading so many other people's comics from an editor's perspective, and trying to help out there. And I've read some where I'm like, Okay, so you clearly are playing a movie out in your head. The problem is what you've got here, you have giant jumps between your panels because you can't show it live action.
Sure.
Some of those jumps are fine. Some of those jumps do not make any sense. And so those need to be addressed either with a narrative and exposition, a different piece of artwork, another panel, something has to happen between these two, because this is too far of a leap for you to ask your reader to make without having enough background.
Yeah, but to your point, I think I want to highlight that, right? Because I don't think people are understanding that enough. Like the different voices, the different perspectives, the different outlooks through diversity. Mm-hmm. I don't care. Like, that's amazing. I would love for more of that. But the craft still needs to be in place. Exactly. They still need to know how to write for that particular thing that they're doing. It's not just enough that you take your checklist box and say, like, cool, we've now completed our Pokemon set. That's not the point. The point is, like, understanding the value of having a different voice and different perspectives and different sort of like experiences in the room. But at the end, there still needs to be a standard that's established so that bar can be lived up to. And I think once you drop that, once you sort of like diminish that and say that doesn't matter, it's just enough that we have diversity in place, that breaks my heart, because what it's doing is, number one, you're doing a disservice to the whole exercise. Yeah. Not just of the diversity, but also leveling them up so that they can excel and thrive in an environment. Right. But just the idea of like forgetting where you've come from, the good, what good looks like, right? That term. Right. You've forgotten where that comes from, and you're no longer holding it as a standard for your product and your company. That's really heartbreaking to me.
Well, Eric, and it turns into tokenization.
Well, what I think Eric's talking about as a society, and I'm not going to get into this too far, but what you're talking about is the bigotry of lowered expectations.
Sure.
So you hire people for the purposes of a demographic or a point of view or what have you, and then when you don't hold them to the same standards as everyone else, garbage in, garbage out. And I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the craft.
Yes, the craft is.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the craft to me is what ultimately is the driving, and I would hope that you guys have insight on this, or at least feedback on this. But it's like, you can tell when craft diminishes, especially when you have a point of reference to previous. And it doesn't matter who it is. You can go like, oh, I know they don't know how to handle character well. They don't know how to handle world building well, or just the actual words themselves. They don't know how to write different people, different voices, different types of dialogue, different perspectives outside of their own. And that, to me, I'm like, well, if you don't have those things, what are you doing? You know, it does become the level of gross tokenization.
I was going to say, the thing that really bothers me, and this is something that has bothered me, like, overall, I hate when I feel like somebody is head patting me whenever I do something. Like, it's okay, dear. I'll paint something and I'll be like really proud of it, and people are like, oh, look at what you did, and I'm like, are you fucking serious right now? Like, fuck you, dude. Right. Like, it's not like, oh, look at what the little redheaded girl did, oh, good for her, oh, pat on the head. Like, and that's what it feels like when that's the tone that a lot of these companies take, where they're like, well, we have to hire, like, there's not enough women, we need to hire more women. And then anytime those women have any kind of scrutiny, come under any kind of scrutinization that anyone in that field would come across, because that's how you grow, is you have to know what you're doing wrong. You have to know where you're not hitting the right marks in order for you to grow. Half of this mentality that it is kind of pervasive throughout society is instantly being offended and attacked. Everyone goes for this victim statement. And you can't, if you are constantly being victimized in your head, if that's all that you tell yourself, you will never grow. You will never break out past that. Now, granted, do people get treated poorly? Yes. Should they be called out when that happens? Absolutely. If somebody treats you is a misogynistic piece of shit, call them out on it. Absolutely. But every time somebody gives you criticism when you're a female, it isn't because they're a misogynist. Every time you get criticism, it's because you aren't perfect. And in order for you to grow, if somebody's opened their mouth and said that this isn't up to par, it's because they are trying to help you grow. If you're going to instantly decide, well, they're only saying that because I'm a woman,
Yeah.
then okay, so what are you going to do? Are you saying that everything that they said has no value because they're only saying it because you're a female? If that's the case, then you need to work somewhere else, call them out for being misogynistic if they actually are. But most of these people can't self-analyze.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, my wife worked in the animation industry for years, right? And when she'd get that feedback of like, hey, they wouldn't necessarily, this isn't good enough, but they'd say like, hey, this isn't right, or this doesn't hit the beat, this doesn't, whatever it is, right? As a storyboard artist, her next question almost automatically is, show me what you mean. Show me what, effectively saying, show me what good looks like and I'll go for that, right? I think people who are in the business of learning often employ a different sort of muscle, right? And people who are in the space that you're talking about, Shae, which is like looking to be victimized, they default to a specific, which is a very different thing. One is active engagement. One is just like a passive default, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, it is to say that, you know, when you have this, I'm going to try to steer this back to a version of our topic.
Right.
It is to say that when writing, always establish, you know, when it comes to what you're writing for, I think it's always good to have a register to go like, am I writing this for the money? Which is fine by me. Go write that thing for the money. You understand. Or am I writing this thing because it's something that I'm ultimately passionate about, right? But sometimes you get to do both, and that's freaking awesome to me, right? However, I've come to find, you guys tell me if you have different experiences. One often leads the other one. Rare if I run into a situation where it's simultaneously both happening at the same time. What I mean by that is like sometimes in these days I'm writing because I love doing it. I find sort of like the puzzle pieces intriguing to me, right? When I run into something that sucks and I can't write my way out of it, I often like, maybe there's a time machine involved. Maybe there's like a teleporter that gets me out of here very quickly. But outside of that ridiculousness, I love sort of like understanding the pieces of how I got myself into that corner and then getting myself out of it clumsily, rarely elegantly, but then somehow I end up getting paid for it, right? The other version I've never experienced before, which is like, I know there's money involved here, and so I've just got to write it for the writing exercise, and hopefully there's good that can come of it, right?
Yeah, I feel like the other side of it is really tricky. Like I know that if I really wanted to, I could sit down and write kids' books and self-publish on Amazon, and I could probably make a somewhat decent amount of money because
do it.
There's so many kids' books that people, kids get bored easily. A lot of parents buy a lot of books. So really, if I have like a cute puppy who learns a lesson, I mean, I could probably make money doing that. But the problem comes in when you are solely focused on profit. The drive to get there is so dwindling, because it's like, yes, money is motivating for a minute, but I still have to come up with a stupid storyline. I have to make sure that it's not too dumb, but it's not out of reach for the audience that I would be writing for. I have to make sure that it's got decent enough illustrations that are going to be engaging for children, because otherwise it's never going to sell. And so putting that much effort into something and then trying to repeat it because the payout doesn't come with the one, it comes with the multiple.
Shae, I will draw it for you, and I guarantee it will only be accessible to children.
It's funny when you all say that, because like you guys like my Aggie books, but that's my least successful book, and it's the one I love to do the most. Yeah, it's because I do it for the love. Even the narrator, she eats the cost of production to get profit share. So for 7 years she gets half, I get half, and blah blah blah, which is fine. But she's doing it because she so rarely gets to play a badass. She normally is doing romance novels. Is her bread and butter for her. So every so often to play a badass character that's a treat for her, and she loves the character, so we have this nice bond over it kind of thing. But I mean, I don't really get paid for that too much, but I enjoy the work, even though it's like several months of my life of something that's not profitable is setting time aside for that. So then when I go back and write the profitable one that makes the money back for the other books, it's always a trade-off kind of thing. And back to the other thing where you guys were talking, I was sitting there listening, just fascinated by your discussion, especially with the realm of comic books. It's not too far away from the same with the independent books. When mainstream literature gets very boring and people start coming to the indies, for many of the exact same reasons, the exact same arguments you guys are discussing over current comic book trends are no different than, say, the Hugo Awards for the last, 10 years plus. You can point at certain authors. Are they good? Are they not bad? Is it because of their social status or their ethnic background? Like, a good writer's a good writer, and I'm not going to shit on somebody because they're for whatever reason. A good story's a good story. I like Fonda Lee. I like N.K. Jemisin. You can be shitty to them, but they usually do write good books. But at the same time, so did Orson Scott Card, and he's kind of an asshole too. So it's you at that point you separate the art and the artist. But in the case of the comic book realm, it's almost, if they're trending one way and people are rejecting that, we can lament that or just use it as the opportunity that it is, because everybody here is made their bread and butter on the independent circuit. That go ahead, trend far off that, because you're leaving this audience behind, and I'll be there for them.
Exactly.
And what did you say before, Eric?
An entire fan base. I will
you
write
said it,
to them.
Right, but you said before, what that person eats doesn't make me shit.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yep.
And that's the thing. Go do your thing. Go do your thing, because there are elements of those books that are still good. Sometimes the art is good. Sometimes a story or two is good. But there are also fans who just want kind of, I hate to say classic, X-Men style. Because I like you. When I was around 6 years old, they did a reprint of Giant Size X-Men #1 in trade paperback form. So, and I had that. That was my first, 6 or 7, 81, 82. It was one of those first introductions to the Krakoa, the X-Men. That was my first introduction. Then I, later collected comics over my life. And I'm like, that's, and that's, again, was it Dave Cockrum, I think? It just blew me away with the storytelling of these characters and these ideas. And that's, your audience is going to be there. Let people do whatever they want to do. You write what makes you happy, and make yourself happy first, and the audience who likes the same thing will lean into that. You will find your audience. Hopefully it makes you rich, but it should at least make you happy. Sai, you got something.
So here's my thing, Gib, and I totally agree with if they're leaving the audience behind, the creative types come along and scoop them up. That being said, I guess what gets under my skin with the whole professional movement moving in one direction and maybe ruining the stories, ruining the characters, ruining the kind of zeitgeist that they've created with decades and decades of work on these comics, is the fact that they are pissing on the IPs. And no offense to any independent creator out there, okay? I love the characters you guys create. I really do. But sometimes I just want to read a fucking Batman story.
I hear that. Yep.
And I don't want it to be whoever's interpretation of a character that fits a pseudo Batman archetype. I want to read about Bruce fucking Wayne.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's the part that drives me to come back at people on social media that are like, well, if you don't like it, don't read it. It's not fucking yours. It's not yours. Well, you didn't read it until 3 weeks ago, so shut the fuck up. Some of us grew up on this stuff.
That's valid.
And can I play devil's advocate to your devil's advocate?
Not yet. And the thing is, okay, as much of the people who invented these things, what's his name, Schuster and whatever for Superman, as much as they're dead now, but as much as their families still claim a portion of ownership, and Action Comics and then DC claim, that intellectual property, at this point, after 80 fucking years or more, that shit belongs to the fans. The people who actually love those characters. And so that's where that anger comes from. That's where that pushback comes from. Please feel free.
Well, there's several points in there. In spirit, I agree with you. So let me preface that, okay? In spirit, I agree with you.
Then in spirit, you're correct. Okay.
Yes, in spirit, I'm correct. But in practice, it comes to a point where it's like, I don't take this for the spirit in which it's intended. There comes a point where it's like Batman was a joke, then he was dark and gritty, then he was a joke again, then he's dark and gritty, then he's Super Friends, then he's pick your era. That character has been mucked around with since the inception, and it's that era, that vertical slice that you happen to find the best will always. It's kind of like when you're ages 17 to 25, when music was good and Saturday Night Live was good. Like whatever that era your brain happened to be of your particular life, it happens all the time. 17 to 25, you're like, that's when music was good, because that's when your brain is formulating its actual opinions, you know. And same thing, that's when Saturday Night Live was good. Anyway, point is, your vertical slice of what you call good should come to an end. Like, nothing's worse than a show that limps on and is a parody of itself over time. Sometimes you have to walk away. I know we want more of the good thing, but you have to, like, let it go at a certain point as well. And it sounds like complete I know, but you have to. You have to let it go, because at the same time, it's kind of like it doesn't belong to you. And I want to say that because, like, I do believe that, like, you know, George Martin owes it to the people that had bought his books for a million times to finish the fucking books. But it is his property, and it sucks. You know, George Lucas should never go back and tinker with the original trilogy, but it is his. Now, don't piss off the people that made you millionaires and billionaires. Don't tell them that they're wrong, because don't stand on their backs and then shit on them. You know, never ever do that. But it is not ours.
That's my point. And the things that I'm talking about that now belong to us, I'm specifically talking about the things that were created by people who are now dead, and they're in the hands of people who don't love it, don't respect it, and don't appreciate where it came from.
But it doesn't erase the parts that you do like. You can just ignore.
Yeah. That's my point. My point is that while they're driving it into the ground, you still want to get back to what it was.
Why?
And
why do you want the same story told back to you?
It's not the same story. It's a new adventure, but with the character that you love. But that's my
point. Like, sometimes let them ride into the sunset. You know, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kids got killed.
Then kill off the character.
You don't need part 2.
Then kill off the character.
You never needed Ghostbusters part 2. Never needed to happen.
Then kill off the character. That's all I'm saying.
Ghostbusters part 2.
Ghostbusters 2 was
amazing. It sucks ass. I said it.
It was amazing.
Oh, you're
Vigo
wrong.
sucked. Vigo sucked.
Janusz
was amazing.
Everybody's a joke.
You're quoting. You're quoting
not in a
Janusz.
good way.
You're quoting Janusz.
Tell me about the Twinkie.
Okay, so I was gonna say, as much as Sai's gonna hate me for this, I actually agree with Gib. But that's because when it comes to
continue.
When it comes to comics, like I didn't grow up with comics, so there's a certain kind of, like, if I look back at, you know, shows and stuff that as a kid I loved, 90% of the shows that I loved as a kid could never be made today. Just outright, not a chance in ever loving hell. Everyone's way too upset at just the mere mention of anything even close to the stuff that I used to laugh at as a kid. If they were to bring back something like The Angry Beavers or Rocko's Modern Life or Real Monsters today and say that that's what it was, and they brought it back purely because of the popularity of the IP, but then changed everything about the mainstay characters, I'd be pissed. Yeah. Because that was something that I grew up with as a kid that I really, really loved. And I think that that's probably where the difference between me and Sai come when it comes to the comics specifically. Sai grew up reading Superman and having that kind of stuff. I didn't touch comics till I was 24. So when I touched comics, there was already 500 different versions of characters. I picked up a She-Hulk because I was like, hell yeah, giant green chick, like, massively strong, I can get behind this. And then I read a couple comics from her from whatever era I picked. I don't even know what it was. And I was like, they wrote her like a dumbass. This is abysmal. Like, I'm so upset right now. And then I finally end up getting friends who go, oh no, you read the so-and-so's run of She-Hulk. Read this one. And then that would be the next thing that I would be able to supplement it with. When you have an entire back catalog where you can pick like which generation of which characters you read, it's not nearly as jarring when they fuck up, because all of the stuff that's in mainstream right now, most of it is telling me that I'm a horrible, evil human being. So I really don't care to read it because I can look myself in the mirror at night and be pretty happy with who I am. And if all you're going to do is demonize me and say that I'm a piece of shit, then I really don't need to give you my money or read your stories, because why would I do that? That sounds stupid. And so I haven't read a mainstream comic in a very long time. I got through a bunch of the Rebirth for DC, and I was really, really into it then, and then everything started slipping. Just a little bit
That's about the time I started walking away from DC, was actually Rebirth. And no offense to Jeff Johns, but it was one of those. I grew up with Hal Jordan, like we talked about, but my favorite was Kyle Rayner, and I loved that character progression. And even Guy Gardner, who was a total douche, came around as being a mentor figure, and he started to evolve, and then Jeff Johns, when he took over like the Flash, we brought back Barry Allen, fuck Wally West, and then when he got a hold of Green Lantern, brought back Hal, fuck Kyle, and Kyle got put. And I hate. Don't bring back the past and brush it off and say, look, it's pretty again. It just feels like Star Wars are all over. There are you can go forward, you can leave those books have chapters.
Those characters behind.
Here's where I want to come back and talk about craft, right? Which is like everything is in the execution, to your point, but also this addresses something that Sai was talking about, which is, my wife often accuses me of not giving good feedback to her in regards to her art, because she says you don't give me. I said, I give you feedback that's appropriate to the thing that you're doing, so that they're actionable and makes a whole lot of sense to you. But she got mad at that because she thought that I was dumbing down the feedback.
Right.
So that she can go and do the thing that she does, which is not true at all. Those two things are not exclusive to each other. I'm giving you the feedback. Like if I were to give you a feedback of, if you're drawing Miyazaki and I'm giving you Tron execution feedback of oh, look how your proportions aren't long enough, but you know what I mean, that's weird to me, right? So to the point of having generational ways of telling stories for Batman, right? The way it's being told now is it harkens back to something that the writer, I think, really, really liked about A History of Batman. It's in their execution and their craft that they can't pull it off. So that's independent of hey, here's a generation, and therefore we should just get over it. And this is a telling of that. Mm-hmm. I'm on board. You want to tell your sort of a snapshot of how you read a segment of time of Batman, and now you're doing it your way. I'm on board for that. I think there's really good opportunity of storytelling. Now it's in how you're telling it. The craft part of how you're telling that story, it doesn't work. It's really, really poor, right? It doesn't track really, really well. Number one, of your understanding of the character, which is really super important, right? Even if it's just oh, here's my interpretation of that, it still doesn't track. And number two, it's in your execution, right? Because you do have to worry about 50 years worth, or at the very least, that time segment, that quote unquote run that you dealt with that really impacted you. That's why I can point to something oh, there's the Chris Claremont run of the X-Men, but I rarely am I ever going to go back to oh, I remember when Jack Kirby and Stan Lee were writing X-Men. I don't do that, right? I know that legacy, but that's what impacted me, and so that's what I'm trying to carry forward. I don't go all the way back to the first time the Krakoan Island showed up in the comic, and now it's a big deal in the most current run of the X-Men, right? I think there is something to be said about understanding where those characters come from, but also on the execution end, what is it about the thing that you're trying to do, just based on that very segmented, specific amount of time that you were exposed to it, where you thought everything was good, and go I'm going to do my take on it, but the craft isn't there. The craft of retelling or telling that story now with your sort of, flavor on top of it, when that's not working, it's really evident, really evident.
Yeah, I can agree with that for sure, and that. Sai, that's not me saying that I think that you're necessarily wrong, because I do feel like what's happening right now is, it feels very Disney-esque to me, where we're I'm going to bank on name recognition, but I am going
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Completely shit on everything that this mainstay character has always stood for. That I have a problem with too, because we're sitting here talking about, if you want to tell your story. But if your story is a polar opposite of what this character historically has always, this is what he's thought, this is what he's, these are his values. And it's been reinforced time and time and time and time again. People don't 180 from their values usually ever. Like
Rarely,
when
yeah.
you have something that you value and you cherish, right? And I'm talking about like all the way down to deep core. I'm not talking about like being okay with, you know, gay marriage. I'm talking about like all the way down to your core. Do you honestly think that people loving other people is bad?
I have a great example.
Okay.
You brought up Disney. So here's Disney.
Sorry.
Luke Skywalker, Last Jedi.
Luke Skywalker. All right.
I know exactly where you're going with this the moment she said it.
This is a character that you have seen develop in 3 movies plus an enormous amount of expanded universe, all of which we're ignoring. Okay, so in 3 movies, you saw that he was someone, he started off young and naive, and he was taught over the course of time to fundamentally believe that good will triumph.
Right.
Not only that, but he staked his life and the lives of everyone he knew, everyone he loved, everyone he had ever seen on redemption. The redemption of his father. He threw away his lightsaber in the face of the Emperor because he believed that his father was a good person on the inside. And I'm sorry I'm poking my desk, Shae. Now, you take that character, the fundamental pieces of him, and you tell me in a damn movie in the Disney era that he was going to start wailing his lightsaber at his nephew because he felt a flicker of evil in him. Bullshit. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, you can have a thing and you can want to go in another direction, but you can't stand on the backs of people and shit on them while you're doing it. You can't take that property, that character, that IP, and use it as a stepping stone to tell your story as a way of getting eyes on something that wouldn't ordinarily have it, and then fundamentally change everything that was loved about that character, story, IP. You just can't. And that's what I'm talking about in today's age. Not necessarily that I respect the fact that, you know, there was a silly Adam West Batman show, which, by the way, I fucking loved.
To see.
And I love Christian Bale Batman. Yeah, and I love Christian Bale Batman. But the point is, you can love different aspects of a character, but you can't take that character who loved Selena Kyle, who had a daughter in The Huntress, who has all of this backstory, and turn around and go, you know, fucking X-Men Iceman with him and just declare him gay. It's fundamentally against the building blocks of the character, the history that you've established. Now, if you wanna go into the multiverse and find a gay Batman, I'm all for it. Do it. But
There's
you know what?
There's a lot of Slashfic out there that has it.
That I've read quite a bit.
Well,
so
there's a lot of characters that have predispositions to things like that, where you could very easily argue that, you know, when you're talking about different kinds of, you know, again, the diversity bit, and you're talking about people that are maybe, you know, LGBTQ plus whatever, there's plenty of characters that have left it very ambiguous for a long time that you could easily argue it. But when you have people that like have built entire lives and then you're like, they value nothing, you're like, okay, that clearly is not true. Like, that doesn't make any sense unless they have become psychotic or been lobotomized. Like, did you lobotomize Batman?
Well, I mean, look at Superman and Injustice. Okay, you take a kind of world-shattering event and you use that as a means of showing what a character would do. That's completely the opposite.
Sure.
Once they're pushed past the edge.
Breaks them, and that
exactly.
makes
that's my
sense.
point.
Yeah.
Like,
But here's my point. If you want to take a character, an IP, all this other stuff, and fundamentally change it, like we're seeing happen in comics, like we're seeing happen in movies, like we're seeing happen in TV with remakes and all this other bullshit, create your own shit. Stop piggybacking it off of something that you're not going to respect, not going to honor, not truly love. Stop taking Tolkien's work and saying, I can make it better. No, you can't.
your own.
Then it's not Tolkien's.
I guess
But
I'm
we
in the minority there. I just don't care. It's do what you want with it. I mean, it's like when someone, like a music purist, don't cover that song. You should never cover that song. That song is pure. I didn't erase it. I didn't come to your house and punch you in the head so hard the memory's forgotten. That shit's still there. You know, if someone else wants to do it. I love
covers, by the way.
What's that?
I love covers, by the way.
So do I. I'm a big covers fan. But that's the thing is like, if someone's so, and I hate to use that term, just so basic that they're going to accept, oh, this is the new thing, then let them. If they have 3 brain cells rubbed together, they're going to go, what was the original? And they're going to go seek it out. You know,
that's not even my objection. My objection is while they're busy writing the shit for X-Men and Superman and all this other shit, no one can write something worthwhile with those characters because the IPs are owned and copyrighted.
I guess it also comes down to like, you know, I just come back to that same argument. Like, it should have just ended already. You know, the course. You have to sometimes just put a pause on something for like 10 years before you bring it back. You know, like don't write on the Superman comic for a generation until it comes back, make it an event. You know, you should put some of those characters away. You should. I don't want more of the same thing given to me over and over and over and over and over. You know, like I like fast food, but not every fucking day. Yeah. You know, and that's what it starts to feel like. Like we could tell new Batman stories. But what else is he going to do? At what point is he going to punch the moon and outclass Darkseid again? At what point is he going to like punch out the next cosmic beam because he planned it? I don't give a shit anymore. And I'm not trying to put down your thoughts. Your passions are your passions, Sai, and I agree with you on the whole. But it comes down to the end of the day, I just don't care what people are doing with this new stuff. If the new Tolkien show sucks, great. If it's good, great. Who cares? Bezos invested $1 billion into it. It's his money. I just pay for the streaming service. I don't own it. I think we have an attachment because we love something so much that we feel like we have an attachment to that thing. We lifted it up. I lifted it up, whatever the nerd properties happen to be. And when I was a kid, nerds sucked. We just sucked, you know. And now nerds are awesome. And we have a lot of nerd gatekeepers saying you can't come into my nerddom unless you know the secret password, you know. And that sucks, you know.
Password.
Say that again?
I never know the password.
Well, no, but here's the thing, like there would
boobs.
Yeah, but that was the thing. Like when I was playing Dungeons and Dragons back in like the late '80s, it was a lot like Stranger Things. You know, it's like does it right. You know, it's the freaky kids and the one weirdo who's been a senior like 3 years too long in high school kind of thing, and very few females. You know, and now it's like Critical Role, and everybody loves it. You know, and great. It doesn't change my experience. You know, it just. It does put a cloud on my memory, but you know what? That's not mine anymore. And sometimes I have to let it go. I still have my comics. I still have my movies. I still have my songs that made me me. And sometimes I'll reach into the new thing and I'll try them. And if it's good, fantastic. I'll extract what I like I did with all the rest of my life.
It's like as you get older, you just start cherry picking little bits. You're like, this one's
but that's
good.
That's
like,
what
the
life
rest
should
of that
be.
Shit, that stays over there, but this comes with me.
Because when we fall into these human beings are designed to fall into a tribe and fight like fuck against the opposite tribe. Constantly.
Goddamn right.
No, that just ensures destruction. Like Coke or Pepsi, Marvel or DC, you know,
DC.
Right, you know,
right.
It just
we're
ensures
talking
that
Twix because left Twix.
It's okay. No, it's not.
Left Twix.
Left
right,
Twix, yes.
Otherwise.
Yeah.
I split them down the middle and eat both. So.
Oh my God!
Actually, I'll unwrap all 4 at the same time. Do that.
Oh, I see. You're one of those independent fence sitters. No, but seriously, what I said in the private chat, just really quickly, I think one of the things that goes against the grain is that you see kids these days and they don't know that there was once a good version of this, and sometimes that's not only their first exposure but their last, because they just decide that it's crap, and I think we as people we want to kind of pass. We want to pass on the things that we love to the next generation, and maybe they love it in a different way, and that's okay. That's okay. We just don't want it to be garbage by the time it gets to them.
That's like unbelievably
very sweet.
sweet and endearing side. Like, the
very sweet.
reason that you're so upset about it is because you want to share what made you love Superman, what made you love
Well,
these
yes.
characters. That's so cute.
My biggest thing is Star Trek. I watched it since I was 4 years old. It's one of my first memories was sitting in front of a TV and watching James Kirk and Spock and Uhura, a black woman on TV in the 60s, and Scotty missing like 3 fucking fingers off his hand, and they always tried to hide it, and George Takei.
Scotty
Mr.
was missing fingers
Yeah.
off of his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a couple of
Eric's
them.
like, hold
He had
on,
him.
Google.
He served in World War II, and
Yeah.
he had a couple of them blow off. I blown off.
You're-
I met the man.
You're 100% accurate. Yeah.
I
Do it.
love that you
Should be
just
doing.
blew Eric's mind to the point that he is Googling mid-show
Yeah.
because he's like, no, I have to know.
I
have
will
to
say,
see this."
again, as always, in spirit, I agree with you with everything, Sai. And I will say this: the only reason I'm so easy to like kind of let it go, and it's a new thing in my life. I'm not a wise man. This is a newish thing of say for the last 5-6 years. I'm a father. I try to show my son the things I loved, and he doesn't give a fuck. He likes what he likes. Now, sometimes we'll have something that we'll come like, hey, son, this is Robotech. I grew up on this. This is the greatest anime. Where the fuck are you going? All right, this is get Star Wars. Tron, the Goon.
Nothing.
Fuck you. And it over and over and over. But that is every generation trying to maintain its legacy for the next. It's like when your grandparents try to give you a piece of furniture you don't want. What am I going to do with this? I'm not going to put this in my fucking
want
house.
it. Send it to me.
Yeah, but you're a pack rat. But my point is like,
that is really nostalgic. That's what it is.
I
well,
am.
and I think it's like, and I have a nostalgia too, but you can't choose the next generation's nostalgia, and don't force your nostalgia on them. Let them have their own nostalgia. You will have a moment when the Venn diagram overlaps where you will have that shared memory, and that will be their nostalgia, but you can't pick it for them.
See, my thing is, I'm grabbing that other circle and I'm dragging that bitch.
I was like, be the next me.
Like my son,
I'm
when I had the
similar to
COVID,
Gib in practice, not necessarily in the reason. I only have so much energy, right? In any given day, I'm a very tired guy. So I can either try to convince a gazillion people to like the thing that I like, or to convince people that this thing is poor and scream at the top of my lungs about it, or I'm going to go make the thing that I really like, right? So I take it out of the, oh my gosh, this sucks so bad, which is really sort of the most passive thing, and I go like, I'm just gonna go draw the thing that I really
just
like.
make a
instead.
better one.
See, that's the thing, Eric. If I could draw, I'd probably be in the same boat, but I can't draw, so all I can do is rage.
Haven't learned yet.
No,
That
that's
doesn't
not right. That's not true. That's the harder part. The drawing part is easy. The
It's
drawing
like
part,
getting those abs we were talking about.
Yeah,
You
so
gotta-
the
Get on
drawing,
your
the
weight.
Gotta
drawing.
actually do
I
it.
don't know why people think drawing is so hard. Like communicating
It's
through
fucking
a,
hard.
Oh my gosh, it's the easiest fucking thing.
Oh,
Like, people-
Oh my
freedom,
God.
freedom.
I have a
You know what,
career.
Eric?
I have a career for doing it poorly.
We're-
Writing
You know what, Eric?
well is so difficult.
Okay, how about
So
this?
Speaking of, I like
difficult.
your dick shoulder improvement. Just,
that
it
was
is
good.
beautiful. It's a new
See?
beautiful
Totally different
Masterpiece.
piece.
See how easy
like how
that is?
and you
By the
see
way,
nobody's face. That's what like I'm looking at it like I know everybody's face is hidden. Like independent
Yeah.
drawings, but you hid everybody's face, and
That's by design.
it's beautiful. Yeah, it's
You
beautiful.
know, when the demons come for you, Eric, I'm taking your drawing arm,
You can have
and
it.
I'll just graft it on.
You can have it. Drawing is
Okay.
easy. The
No, I was
writing
gonna
is
say
hard.
we need to sit down and be like, okay, Eric is gonna teach all of us how to draw, and then we're gonna help
Eric. Oh my God, Eric, that would be so amazing. We could do that in a series.
We'll do
I can
a swap.
I am so confident I can give you that fundamental understanding of just drawing human anatomy that I'm like, let's do that. That's
Okay.
Okay.
that is such an
Okay.
easy get.
You know what, folks? Coming soon to Red Valkyrie, Eric Canete,
Professor
Yeah.
Eric
learn to draw.
Oh boy.
drawing pros.
Okay.
drawing.
Yes, drawing pros.
I gotta go.
That church won't save you now,
Oh,
my
so
friend.
I hear
All
I
right.
hear the Lord calling.
Good. Real quick
Turn back.
before we wrap up, does anybody have any other little points that they want to make? I know that Gib being
No.
sick did not come up with scenarios for us, which is fine. It's fine.
I did it last week.
It's okay.
You're doing
I want you to
fine.
feel better. Like, don't die. I'm
All right.
Shae,
more Aggie.
I gave us all this. Well, I gave myself this scenario.
I gave one scenario for you. Yes.
Yes.
We'll pick it
and
up.
you know,
We'll pick it up next time.
Shae's turkey noodle soup.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Turkey noodle soup for everybody. Yay. Did anybody have any little lasting points before we sign off?
Yeah, be a whore as much as possible and write and write for money.
Yep.
Writing
That
for
sounds-
money is
And
amazing if you
respect.
get it.
What?
Respect the shit that came before you.
What day does this come
just
out on?
whore it up.
Not this Thursday, but next. So.
2 Thursdays. Yeah.
So that's the what?
Oh gosh.
Oh my God.
The 28th.
Motherfucker.
All right. When this comes out, my book will already have been released by The Cape is a Lie,
There
The
it
Ballad
is.
of Kevin.
I
Yes!
love that.
The Ballad of
It is a
Kevin.
superhero action comedy. It is fun. It'll cost you $6 on ebook, and I'll have the paperback will be released about the same time. So I just have to hit the paperback. You can't pre-order the paperback. You just have to click publish. So
Do that.
yeah.
Everyone do that.
Get me the links.
Yes.
They will be in the upper right of the stream, and they will be down in the description.
This is my new one. It is fun. It is goofy. It is zany. It is action, and it's if you love superheroes and just what can go wrong will go wrong in this kind of like world, you'll enjoy this.
Yay!
I'm into it.
Gave us a little peek, a little primer on it, and it is amazing.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Well
be
done.
great. Definitely worth your money. I don't think that I've recommended Gibbs books to like all my friends and the people that have actually gone and bought them, read them, audiobook, whatever.
Thanks, 7 friends.
Love them. Love them. I know it may not be. Look, I don't have a lot
It's
of friends,
worth.
Gib, but
But I appreciate it. But no,
derailed that compliment.
you always got to horror yourself. So I'm going to.
I know.
Yes.
Horror
yourself out.
Yep.
To that sentiment, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to Red Valkyrie. Maybe become a member. We definitely have had an influx of members lately, and we're pretty happy about that. But feel free to join. There's backstage pie. It's a lot of stuff.
Yes.
A lot of stuff.
And we will
Backstage
see you all
pie.
next time. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Writing Prose. Please like, share, and subscribe if you've enjoyed our content. You can also become a channel member or shop our merch store to support us. We're currently accepting fan-submitted stories for anonymous on-air review later in the season. Send your submissions to redvalkyrie.writingprose@gmail.com. We'll see you next time.